Hello, this is the Tepid Coder. In this video, I want to talk about Sqlite, since I've been making C++ videos about periodic templates and kind of mentioning how to make Sqlite interaction a bit easier in C++. I figured it would be good to actually make sure that everyone has some rudimentary understanding of how to use Sqlite, or really any SQL type language. So I'm going to try to start from as basic as possible and work my way up. So first of all, I want to talk about types of data relationships you can have. If you have something like a user in your database, and you want to modify something about that user, you might have something like a, I don't know, username, an email, maybe they have a hash of a password, maybe they have like a date that they joined, maybe they have like some kind of permissions, like they could be just your regular user, they could be unregistered, they could be, let's say they're a paid user. Paid, I almost wrote. They could be an admin, a moderator, whatever. You're going to have stuff like this. And when you're looking for users, you can grab any of these users' data, and you can work with it. And you can also update any of these users based on, well, matching any of these fields, really, but you'd probably want to match something like the username, or maybe some kind of like unique identifier that exists in this record. So this is called a one-to-one relationship, when you're modifying something that just exists in a record that matches something like update the data for this user with this username. Maybe their email changed. Maybe they've changed their password. Maybe they're now a paid user that has more permissions or something, or they become a moderator or an admin or whatever. So you would just update one record based on like matching the ID usually in this case. Now to make this, what you have to do is you have to really give it a table name first of all. So it's create table. I'm going to call it users. Okay. And then kind of like in C++, when you make a structure, like struct whatever, name, then you have like, type name, semicolon, then type name, semicolon. You just keep doing that. This is pretty similar, except the type of the name are reversed. It comes name first, so I'm going to do ID, and the type of the ID is going to be a primary key. It's going to be integer primary key, and it's going to auto increment. Now what that means is, every time I create a new user's record that has all these things, like imagine it's a structure, it's automatically going to start this ID at 1 for the first record, and the next one you insert is going to be 2, and 3, and 4, and so on and so forth. That's if no one specifies exactly what the ID should be when they're creating a new record. So that's our ID field. So maybe our username is called like stir for string username. I'm usually really overly explicit with these things. One thing you can do, if you want there to be a space in the field name, is you can put it in accent marks like this. It's basically like a tilde, but unshifted. So I usually call it a backtick. And by default, I always just stick things in backticks to really hammer in that I'm talking about a column or a table name. So anyway, this type is going to be a string, but there's no string type. It's called text, and that would let you use any number of characters. And you can also do something like varchar, so a variable number of characters. I could say maybe the username can only have 20 characters. That's 20 characters, not including the 0 or null terminator at the end, if there is one. We don't have to worry about that. So this is like the exact length of the string that it could be. So maybe the username can only be 20 characters. That's fine. And you can have a default value, like if they haven't specified something, you could say the default is, unknown or whatever. It's also possible that you might want to say it can't be null, right? They have to specify it when you're creating a record. If it's not specified, it's going to be considered an error when you run the query to insert the record. So I'm going to say not null. Let's do, I don't know. Let's say stir email varchar. I think this is 50, not null. Let's do stir password hash. Maybe it's like hex encoded or something. I think that a text field. I don't know how the heck it's going to be, but whatever. It's also not null. Okay. Date they joined. Now in Sqlite, there is actually no date field. You could say, date time. It'll let you put whatever you want here, but it's not actually going to be that type. You can store dates as doubles, which are called real in this language. Or you can do integers, which works like timestamps, and you can do strings. I always opt for strings, personally, because they let you do things like compare with less than, equals, whatever, when you're querying for something. You can kind of check like between two ranges. It'll work just fine for that. It'll implicitly convert the text into a what do I say? A data object that it can work with internally. So that'll come into play later. Anything else? Sure, I'll give him some permissions. Let's say it'll be an integer. Let's say ICT4 permissions. And I'm gonna say something like, I'll just say I. Do I? Yeah, I'll say I for now, just for keeping this as simple as possible. The way that things are actually stored in SQLite depends on the function you call when you're calling the API to store the value and how big the value is. You might say you want to store like a 64-bit integer, but it might be a small enough integer, even though it's 64 bits, that you're passing to it, that it could store it in like 2 bits or something. And if it's able to use less space, it will. And then when you ask for it, you'll be asking for it as like a regular integer, like 32 bits or something, or as a 64-bit integer. It's basically just going to give you that type back, even though it's not how it's stored implicitly. So that's kind of cool. Some things I should go over is like, this is a comment. So kind of like in C, where you do double forward slash for comment, in SQL languages, it's 2 forward slashes for a single line comment. If you want, you can also do the same slash asterisk and asterisk slash. It'll do multi-line comment, right? Still a comment here too, right? Let's say this is an integer. You could just say int. That's fine too. I'm type integer. I'm gonna say default is 0, and let's say 0 has like no permissions. Okay. So let's actually create this table real quick. Boom. Okay, so we have a table created now. I want to comment it out, so we can look at it later if we want to. And I'm going to actually insert some records into it. The way you do that is you say insert into the table name, which is going to be users. Okay, and you specify the fields you want. So I'm just going to, I think, copy and paste these instead of typing them all over again. Okay. This will be just a bit quicker. And I don't need to specify the ID because that's auto increment. So each of these have commas. Okay, we're going to say values. Now, these values that I put in have to align with these. So the first one has to be username because I specified it that way. These could be specified in any order here when I'm doing the insert. It doesn't have to match the table. But the values do have to match the order you put them here. Okay? I'm just going to keep them consistent with the table in case I add something later. I can kind of keep them synchronized. So username, I'll say the tepid coder. What else would I put there? I mean, come on. What else do we have? We have an email, so the email is going to be the@tepid coder.com. How about password hash is going to be something just like some hex string. Let's say, I don't know, ABD3 4DC0D3 0101 222, whatever. There's my hex thing. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13. I need one more. Yeah, now it's 2 characters of hex per byte. Let's pretend that's our password hash right there. Okay, join date. Let's say they joined just now. It's going to be 2024/08/22, and right now it is C5 plus 12 is going to be 17. And it's going to be 12. Let's say 0 0. Okay, what else do we have? Permissions. So if I don't specify this, the default is going to be 0. So I'm just going to do it like this. Let's actually run this now. Uh-oh. Missing database 4. So right here, it caught my error there. I didn't specify the permissions. So I don't need to. Okay. So now I've inserted the record right here. You can see I commented out the permissions. I didn't want to insert it. So now I want to show how to actually view this new record that I created. So the way I do that is I say insert into, how to view it. So how you view it is you say select, I'm going to do star, which means all the columns, from, and I'm going to say users. I'll put that in backticks. Okay. There we go. So this is going to show every single user record is inside of that users table over here. And I'm getting all columns from all of those records that I'm pulling. If I wanted to just view the username, I could say, view stir username. Right, select stir username from users. I can grab any fields I want out of there. So what do I have? Like I can actually manually type them all out if I want. Let's do ID. Right. And if I want to, I can also rename these. I can say just username, right? So it's going to select that as username. So I have to put as. Okay. What? Oh, sorry. I had a trailing comma there because I was going to put more fields in. Yeah, that'll work right there. You can also say as. You don't have to put as, but you can. You can also alias the table. You could say as u or ESR or something for user. And I could say it comes from user, right? User.id, user.stername, whatever. So that'll also work. Same thing here. You don't have to put the as. It's up to your preference. Okay. Let's just finish filling out those fields. So USR dot is going to be what else I have? Stir email. Let's call it email address. Okay, we're going to do USR dot stir password hash. I mean, I don't really care about that. I say password hash. I'm not going to actually pull it in. I don't want it. It's not really useful. Okay. Then we're going to do user dot stir join date. I'll say join date. Anything else I care about? I'll pull the permissions. Why not? It's ESR. Okay, ESR dot permissions as permissions. Okay. Select that. Cool, so I get all that data from there. Permissions is 0, just like I thought it should be, because I defaulted it. Okay, so now let's say you want to update a record, now that you have a record. So what you can do is you can say update, table name, so users, we're going to say set. So I'm going to set, how about my emails change? Set stir email equals, I'm going to say something new. How about fake email at fakewebsite.org. I can also say comma and then something else equals something else. How about now stir password hash equals, I don't know, 0011001122 FFAA00. How about that? Okay. I can say where it's going to be my ID for that user equals 1. So right here. I could also say where the username equals tepidcoder if I wanted. It's faster to do it by ID, but if I wanted, I could say where stir username equals, the tepid coder. So let's try that first. So I ran that. If I look at output right here, you can see that it ran that update. So that's cool. Let's try and select it again. Okay, tepid coder, fake email at fakewebsite.org. Okay, and my password hash isn't being shown here because I didn't actually select it. So let's pull that in now. Okay, and you can see the password hash changed to 00110011. Before it was this over here, AB whatever. And it was the at tepid_coder.com. Okay, so we have the ability to select things, the ability to insert records, the ability to update records. So I'll show you something else you can do. It's possible that instead of wanting to update necessarily, you might want to update or insert. And the way you can do that is there's a command called replace into. So replace into, it's going to be users. And we're going to say, just like we're doing an insert, okay, we're going to say, how about, I kind of want to copy all this, make this as easy as possible. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. So now the values. What am I putting in here? I'm going to say username is going to be fake coder. Fake email address at GorillaMail.com. And GorillaMail is an actual website you can use. It's like a temporary email service. Anyway, so what else do we have here? Password hash. Let's say I shouldn't be using backticks for that. That should be apostrophes. How about 111.2.223.3.3.4.0.1.0.1. Okay. Join date is going to be 2020/01/01 00:00:00. So midnight on the first day of 2020. Okay. And then permissions, this person can be how about an admin? Let's pretend one's an admin. Okay. So one thing I need to do here is I need to specify the ID, and in this case I'm going to say the ID is 2. If I actually select all the users right here, you can see I only have one user. So because this ID doesn't exist, it's going to create a new user. So I'm going to do that. I just ran it. No errors, looks like it's happy. So now let's actually select the current users. It's going to show all the user records. And now you can see there's 2, fake coder. It's got ID 2 there. Now, if I do this again, I'm going to run the same replace into. It's actually not going to create a new record. So I did replace into again. You can see I just ran that again, replace into. But because the ID is the same, it's just going to update that record. So see that? Didn't create a new one. But if I run this same insert statement I did before, this will keep adding new records. So I just ran that again. You can see over here the insert into. So now when I do my select statement, it's going to show 2 tepid coders. See that? The tepid coder right here. He's in there again. So that's kind of bad. But I can fix that. Let's make number 3, instead of be the tepid coder, it's going to be super coder. Real email address at legitimateemailservice.com. Oops. Service dot. No, let's say even. Okay. They joined at year 2000. 01, 01, 01. Okay. This person, maybe it's a 2 as a moderator or something. Just imagine. Okay, I ran that. Now if I do the selection, the second tepid coder should now be something else. Super coder. So that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to leave this video here for now, because I've covered quite a bit. Just creating table, dealing with a one-to-one relationship, inserting records, selecting those records, updating those records, updating or inserting, depending on if there's a key clash. That's quite a lot for this one. In the next video I do on this, I want to talk about having multiple tables that are related to one another. And there's going to be things called joins and subselects that I want to talk about. So it's going to be a little bit probably harder to explain and harder to follow if I don't explain it well. So anyway, if you like what you saw, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing for more content like this, and I would love to hear any comments or feedback or questions you have. If there's something I can explain better, please let me know. SQL is not like the primary thing I typically do for work, so it's something I definitely have to do for work, but it's one of those things where you kind of get it working and you don't need to look at it for a long time, unless you're adding like a new field to the database, and even then you're usually not matching on that new field and blah blah blah. But kind of like regular expressions, you get it working and then you kind of leave it alone until the next project starts. So alright, I will catch you guys later. Happy coding, guys.